Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Sheely, and I am here to present to you my signature adventure creation. For this, I have chosen to create a how to guide on how to build a classroom. So you'll learn how to set up a classroom from start to finish. Throughout the project, I've also included creativity quotes of the day on each step. I've also included a lot of information that we gathered through article readings, through chapter readings, just anything that we've learned through this class. I've tried to incorporate it in here to show how it can be used in a functioning classroom. So here's the overview. And I'm just going to go through each step, kind of briefly touch base on the most important aspects. And obviously, there's more detail in each slide. So, through this how to guide, like I said, you will learn how to assemble a classroom from start to finish. The example that I have included is a classroom designed for 18 to 24 months. It's going to be a classroom heavily focused on learning through play, hands on experiences, and sensory exploration. It's also important to note that my classroom that I used had not been active for several months, so it did add a few extra challenges. Step one is going to be cleaning. So you're going to begin with cleaning all shelves, tables, chairs, cubbies, toys, anything that's in the classroom. Mine had kind of accumulated a lot of stuff. So I wanted to take all that stuff out and get it to as much of a blank space as I possibly could. Step two is going to be brainstorming. So I use this for a multitude of things. You can use it for layouts, sketching different layouts for the classroom, toys, materials that you may need, different ideas that you have for lesson plans. I also incorporated a lot of Wallace's early model of creative thinking in this. So I did some preparation. I had to ask myself, what am I doing? What kind of learning environment do I want to create? I sat on it for a while during the incubation period. I found the route that worked for me. And then through that, I was able to create this classroom at the very end. So step three is going to be arranging the classroom. So these are the layouts that were created in the brainstorming step. It's important to remember the different learning centers that you need to incorporate or that you may want to incorporate. A couple of things to keep in mind is be mindful of the children as well as their size. So make sure they have enough space to move freely. While there's also defined spaces for these learning centers. Gather any materials needed. So this is kind of a broad step, and it can be different for any of the learning centers that you're going to be incorporating. But overall, you're going to want to grab dramatic play items, a variety of art materials, sensory bin items, different items for them to tinker with. So toilet paper rolls, nuts, bolts, glue, and then just a variety of blocks and manipulatives. Step five is going to be assembling the learning centers. So I did break this down into each specific learning center. I had dramatic play, blocks or building, art and tinkering, science and sensory, which I did include together, reading, and circle time. So step 5A is going to be dramatic play. You want to create a space big enough for a minimum of 4 children to play in. This is a great center to add home-like aspects in, so tablecloths, windows with curtains, rugs, anything like that. I use a lot of real-life items, so old cordless phones, child-sized brooms, anything like that to give them almost like that realistic quality to it. Step 5B is going to be blocks and building. So this is going to be near another loud center. So like dramatic play, areas like that. You're going to want to include a variety of different blocks. So wooden ones, plastic ones, foam, anything like that. I also like to include animals and cars into the center just to give them more materials to expand their thinking. Step 5C is art and tinkering. This is kind of self-explanatory. I just gather a bunch of random art materials and put it in there. You're also going to want to include loose parts like nuts, bolts, string, so that they can work on those fine motor skills and assembling those things. 5D is going to be science and sensory. So this one for me rotates seasonally. So right now we have like a fall themed basket in there. Um, I also like to include spoons, small tongs, just to help them kind of develop that fine motor skills. So, oh, I think it's 5E is going to be reading. So I always put reading next to the large group area. Kind of off to the side, I include some softer colors, soft animals, that type of thing. It really gives children not a space to not only experience and explore books and literacy, it creates the space for them to go to when they're overwhelmed. It allows for solitary thinking to work on their ideas and creations. Um, and I always kind of keep it next to large groups. So if they don't want to fully participate in sharing or being in those activities, they're still near it and they can still be included. So, like I said, circle time is also large group area. So I include, the normal letters, numbers, colors, shapes, all of that. I always make sure to put it at eye level to ensure that they can still explore it even when we're not using large group. Um, it's also a great space where we can come together and share ideas. Step 6 is going to be create a creation display. So I created the Orange Room Art Museum. I made sure that it was at eye level. And it's also nice to include like a small table or something like that for those creations that cannot be hung on the wall. Step 7 is going to be lesson planning. So this is where everything comes full circle. All of the time and effort that you've been put into those learning centers is where it's going to come to fruition. Always try to include the early childhood standards. And then remember, lesson plans can be flexible. Yes, it's on there, but if children are more interested in one activity versus another, extend it to extend their learning. Go with them. This is an example of a lesson plan that I created for this age group. And step 8 is finishing touches. So this is just adding all those little things. Labels for all of the centers, making sure that they're at eye level, pictures of what that area is so that children that can't read yet can still understand and know what that's going to be, what that center is going to be for. This is where you label anything that is going to be specific to any child. So any cubbies, any chairs, all of their belongings, all of that good stuff. It's also really great if you host a Meet the Teacher night, just so that you can introduce yourself to your new group of students and their parents. On the first day, always be warm and welcoming and engaging. This just gives children and their families a sense of security and comfort because they are going to be the ones you're leaving their children to. But that is everything I have, and I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you.